Benchmarks recover from yesterday's fall to end higher, powered by realty and financials. Pharma stocks drag. Broader markets underperform benchmarks. Rupee weakens against dollar for the second day. IIFL Finance 361 WAM. IIFL securities fall after income tax searches at Mumbai office on suspect of multi-crore tax evasion. Documents seized, senior executives are being questioned. Rural to the rescue for automakers in their third quarter, with companies reporting a mixed bag of numbers. Bajaj Auto and TVS Motor report a profit rise, whereas Hyundai's net profit declines. An NDTV Profit team meets the Gen Z from NMIMS to find out what changes they want from Budget 2025. And a bid to address concerns over rising airfare, the government nudges airlines to add more flights, ease fares for Prayagraj. This follows a multi-fold jump in ticket prices to Mahakumbh, which continues till February 26th. Hello and welcome. Good evening. This is Profit 360 on NDTV Profit and I'm your host Malika Mishra. Along the next half an hour of this show, we will bring you the latest on markets as well as national and international news. To begin with, benchmarks snapped two-day losing streak today with the Sensex ending around 75,900 points and the Nifty rising by 128 points. Sectors showed a mixed performance with realty and banking leading the gains. However, pharma and media sectors dragged the indices lower. My colleague Harsh is joining us with more details.
Well, we saw a recovery in markets, so some bit of positivity largely led by financials, but assistance far and few outside of that basket. 0.5% higher on the Nifty, and therefore the benchmark has done better than the mid-cap and the small-cap indices. The broader end continues to see some bit of pressure, but it was a volatile and choppy day nonetheless. Let's pull up the intraday on the Nifty 50. So 0.7% lower on the Nifty mid-cap. And we'll look at the advance and the decline ratio as well. But there you go. Quite a choppy day. You look at the high of the day, 23,138, and you look at the low, 22,830. So it's been quite a wide variance how the Nifty is traded. And we've seen a recovery and then we've fallen off. So that's the other thing that sent a bit of jitters in the market. Let's pull up the Nifty mid-cap and small-cap index as well intraday, and you'll see a similar kind of a trend, where there was a bit of recovery and thereafter a bit of a sell-off as well. So we turned green on the mid-cap, thereafter falling off, ending more than 0.5% lower. At the bottom end here, we were down 3.5%. And thereafter, we've seen a 300-odd point recovery from there. And therefore, 300 points from the top, but also 300 points from the bottom on the Nifty mid-cap and small-cap indices. 2:1, where the advanced decline is concerned in favor of the declines. And you'll see the choppiness there as well. And more importantly, it's slightly better than the graph we saw yesterday. So that's probably a wee bit of positivity there. Let's look at the Nifty 50 heat map and you'll see the texture of how the market was. Pharma was under pressure. Financials did well. Auto did well as well. Some of those names will declare numbers, especially on auto. You'll see a Tata Motors as well as others declare numbers tomorrow. And some of the pharma names as well declared, something like a Cipla declared numbers did fairly well in trade today, 2% higher. Last off, let's look at the sectoral heat map before we go to the BSE 500 top gainers, top losers. Sectors, no surprise. I'll just cover the ones which we haven't yet done. Nifty Realty up 2% odd. Nifty Pharma down 2+%. Nifty IT 0.6% lower. So no assistance on the benchmark from the IT index. The metal index was down 0.4 odd. Let me quickly last off pull up the top gainers, top losers. Those are some names for you which were in focus, some on the back of earnings, but some also on the back of the recovery trade that's played out today.
Thanks for wrapping the market today for us, Harsh. Now, ENAM's Manish Chokani tells NDTV Profit that he welcomes the correction in the markets amid valuation. He believes that markets will create tremendous amount of wealth in the coming decade. Here's a slice of that conversation for you.
I think the whole focus of the discussion used to be on valuation, that you can buy the best company in the world, but if you've paid a wrong or a very fancy price for it, you're going to spend years and years recovering. And I'd given the example then using both Infosys of 2000, 2001 where it had hit a $45 billion market cap. And 24 years later, we are coming to a $90 or $95 billion market cap in dollar terms. In rupee terms, because the rupee has collapsed, it may look optically better. But in real terms, you didn't really make money because the price paid was too high. I'd also use the example of Zomato, which was the most popular company in which all of us have participated and done well. But to pay $30 billion for Zomato in 2004 was expecting a lot of the company to deliver by 2030. And sometime when the math doesn't add up, it's better to just sit on the sidelines and wait for some sanity to come back to the markets. And I think we're going through that. Whether DeepSeek had come or not, whether earnings had slowed down or not, we would have had some pause, given how overheated the market was and how priced for perfection we had become across sectors. Everything at 50, 60, 70 P multiple looked like so easy for most investors that there was reason for correction. And I'm glad in a way the supply response from both from the IPO, QIP market, promoters selling, overseas strategic investors selling has helped to cool things down. Nothing changes the structural trajectory of India. I still do think over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, this is a market which will create tremendous amount of wealth. But when you pay so much in advance for earnings, I think it's only right that we get a moment to pause and reflect.
Right. Well, that was Mr. Chakhani's view on the markets at the moment. Let's give you the fund flow picture of this evening. Foreign investors maintain selling momentum with outflow worth 4,921 crore rupees, while their domestic counterparts buy shares valued at 6,814 crore rupees. Now, viewers, 3 Indian automakers, TVS Motor, Bajaj Auto and Hyundai India reported their third quarter earnings today. It was a mixed bag, but there was a key theme binding them together: a rural rebound and EV focus. My colleague Tushar is joining us with more details on this.
3 Indian automakers, TVS Motors, Bajaj Auto as well as Hyundai India reported their third quarter earnings today. Mixed bag of sorts, but there was a key theme that was running through all these 3 companies, that was that the rural is very much in focus, as well as the electric overdrive that is likely in 2025. First up was TVS Motors. Numbers were healthy, but what stood out was the company's commentary on EV sales. Sales of the iQube electric scooter have jumped by about 57% year on year to about 76,000 units in the October-December period. The wholesales and exports again being a good trigger for the earnings, are up about 10 odd percent to about 12 lakh units in the 3 months of October to December. Next up was Bajaj Auto. Again, a healthy set of numbers. Earnings were powered by the revival in exports as well as the surge in the EV business. According to the company, the EV business is now a profit-making enterprise, but it's still the electric 3-wheeler business whose gains are offsetting the losses in the electric 2-wheeler space. But Bajaj Auto was also confident. It actually had a line of sight on when the Chetak business will turn positive in terms of the EBITDA. The next was Hyundai India. Muted quarter. Actually, profit dropped by about by a fifth. Revenue was muted, and these numbers were attributed to geopolitical risks that weighed on exports, as well as muted demand at home, which were only propped up by discounts. What the company said that the margins as well as the revenue were impacted by lower sales and heavy discounting. The company believes that the industry will grow in single digits and its own performance will be in line with the industry. But what all these 3 companies said was that there is a significant uptick or green shoots visible in the rural space. Remember, that's not been the case in the last couple of years, but that's significantly happening now. What is actually a bit of a concern is that urban growth is completely lacking. There is no sign of any growth going ahead. The companies attribute, especially Hyundai, attributed this to higher interest rates, but how the current quarter pans out is something that everybody has to wait and watch.
Right, Tushar, thank you for bringing us that angle to the results. Now, China's DeepSeek has caused a shake-up in the Silicon Valley. But where does India stand in this AI arms race that seems to be emerging between the US and China? And if a Chinese startup can set up a large language model that is taking on ChatGPT, why can't India and its exceptionally skilled and large IT workforce? My colleague Himakshi Bahuguna caught up with Professor B. Ravindran, the head of Wadhwani School of Data Science and AI at IIT Madras, and she began by asking him about the DeepSeek saga and how it started. Listen in to that conversation.
What DeepSeek has really done is to not necessarily surpass the existing models in performance, but match it at a fraction of the cost that you would take to process every query that the user would give the system, right? So if you are using, but most people are actually using GPT-4, right? OpenAI's latest offering, GPT-4 or 4.0, at the back end for building their services, and the cost that you would have to pay a DeepSeek for the same service is literally about a tenth of the price, right, of this models. And that is what has really, shaken the AI industry itself, right? And also further, DeepSeek itself has released the entire model in an open domain, right? So anybody, if they want, can actually download the model, right? And if they have the capacity, if they have the GPU capacity at their site, they can run it locally. Right? They don't actually have to go to China and run the queries and get the answers back, right? And Perplexity is one of the bigger companies that has already done it. So they are offering the same DeepSeek service, but from a model that is served from outside China, right? So they've basically taken the model, and you can access DeepSeek through Perplexity, but you don't have to go to China. So these kinds of serving models are going to come up very quickly, and this is certainly going to shake up the business plans of all the biggies. Right? So that's why there's so much excitement about it.
Right.
And so technically, what DeepSeek has done is actually taken a lot of clever ideas that people have been working with for several years, right, and put all of them together in a complete package, right, that allows them to do both training of the models, right, which is essentially ingesting all the data and coming up with the basic LLM model, and also what is called inference, right? So when you are actually submitting a query, when you are using it as an end user, right? When you're submitting a query, what amount of compute that gets done, right? That also has been slashed significantly by some clever tricks that they have been able to string together. It is not that they have done something that is the community was not aware of. Putting all these things together certainly makes it an amazing engineering feat that they have done.
Right, right. And Professor, so I would like to ask that where is India in the global AI race?
We have a lot of catching up to do. So we have actually been very good at building applications on top of existing AI platforms. And a lot of services are being offered in India around that. There are a few players in our market that are trying to build these models from scratch, right? Not just rely on the APIs that are serving these. And so they are certainly there, right? So we still have some ways to go. And so what DeepSeek's success has shown us is that we really don't need that level of investments that we thought was essential into building a GPU infrastructure to actually get to cutting edge AI, right? But it's not that we can do it tomorrow, right? It's not that. I don't think there is any one of these AI companies right now that have the kind of compute that even DeepSeek had access to build these models, right? So even though they have done it at one tenth the cost of what OpenAI did, we still have some ways to go before we could have like sprouting of companies that are able to do this, right? And but still, it gives us a lot of hope, right? So the same kind of investment is certainly something that we can aspire for. Well, earlier to compete with OpenAI on an equal footing would have been a pipe dream. And now we can really start strategizing and putting together our own homegrown LLM models.
Right, absolutely. Now, and also, Professor, what should India do to be part of this big boys club in AI?
So there are multiple things that India needs to get right. So the first thing is we have to figure out, the research funding. So in India, so we have a lot of people who right now in India talks about how much talent pool India has in AI, right? So we talk about that we are one of the second or third largest talent pool in AI and so on and so forth. But the kind of talent that we have is not geared towards doing fundamental research in AI. They are more towards building applications on top of AI systems, and we are very good at that, right? So we can take the existing LLMs and put something together and build systems on top of it, but we are not able to get into the more fundamental building things from scratch piece, right? So that is still something that India needs to do, invest in that, building that kind of talent. Right, so that's something that we have to do, and then of course we still, like I said, right, even though DeepSeek showed us that we can do with lesser compute, but still have to invest in that amount of compute at least, and it is the government that really needs to do that. So we need to get that compute as well in place, right? And so these are the true primary things, right? So that we really need to get done correct. So in terms of data and so on and so forth, yeah, it'll be great when we are building our own data sets, but we don't have to wait for that. So we can still look at something similar to what Meta or OpenAI did and scrape the internet to build some amount of data and so on and so forth. So that we can get done. So the government is actually doing many of these things right. I mean, the intentions are all in place, right? So we have the India AI mission, which talks about data, which talks about compute, which talks about building models, which talks about education, talks about entrepreneurship, all of these. And so they have these 7 pieces that we really need to focus on in place. And now we just have to find the money to fund that and the people to run. So I think we are moving in the right direction. But both the government and the corporate research, right, needs to spend a lot more money.
So government needs to spend more on the AI.
The good news is DeepSeek has shown us that we don't have to spend the kind of money we thought we needed to spend last year, but still we need. Yeah.
And also, Professor, at the pace at which technology is changing, where do you see AI going from here?
So, I mean, even though DeepSeek is reduce the cost, right? From a capabilities point of view, it is still, somewhat close to what, the OpenAI and Meta and Google models can do, right? So in the sense that these models still can't do, true reasoning, right? There are some simple problems that even a small child can, small puzzles, right? Which the models have not been trained on. You can have these models fail, spectacularly on some simple puzzle, which like a 5 or 6 year old kid could solve, right, after a few attempts. So there is some gap to still close, right, even though AI has been progressing significantly in terms of things like language capabilities and the ability to, synthesize a lot of information that is out there on the web and answer queries in a manner that appears to be intelligent, right? So we still have a ways to go before it can truly reason about unseen problems, right? And I believe in the next 10 years or so, we will make significant progress towards having true independent problem solvers through the AI technologies. We are not there yet, but I'm very hopeful that we'll get there in within a decade or so. And in the meanwhile, the AI systems are going to get better and better at a variety of tasks on which they're going to be specifically fine-tuned. Like, I mean, we already are seeing AI systems that help with even creative, what people normally would think as creative tasks, like, writing and scoring music and painting and so on and so forth, right? So we never thought artificial intelligence systems will be able to do that a decade back, and now they are so good at it and they're improving day by day. And this pushing the boundary on things that essentially synthesize large volumes of data and surprise us with their seemingly intelligent behavior. That's certainly going to happen, keep happening.
Well, while that was a holistic remark of Professor B. Ravindran on the AI space, let's also take a look at some global market action. Wall Street opened flat after a sell-off fueled by worries over the emergence of DeepSeek and its implications for technology investment and profits in the US. Nvidia added 3% after slumping nearly 17% in the previous session, losing almost $600 billion in market value, the biggest ever one-day drop for a US company. Meanwhile, European markets, however, traded higher. Income tax officials searched the offices of 360 ONE-WAM and IIFL. My colleague Agnidev sent us a detailed report about the same.
We are here outside the office of 361 at Kamla Mills in Lower Parel. Income tax officials are searching the building on multiple levels. The staff has gone incommunicado because their phones have been seized. The search has been going on since the morning, and NDTV Profit has learnt that the income tax officials are also searching multiple locations linked to the IIFL group. Now, one should remember that 361 was earlier called IIFL Wealth Management. So, IT officials suspect a multi-crore tax evasion scheme, and there are a lot of locations that are being searched right now according to NDTV Profit reports, and they are even questioning senior executives and accountants involved in the matter. Now, it's important to note that this is a developing story and we'll keep bringing you the details, but certain details are murky right now as to the quantum of the scam that is being investigated, what the officials are searching for, and we will also get you know how many premises are covered by the IT officials. As of now, this is all from my end, but stay tuned for more updates.
Thank you for bringing us that ground report, Agni. Now, as the Mahakumbh Mela continues to attract millions of pilgrims, airfares to Prayagraj have skyrocketed by nearly 600%, making travel increasingly expensive for devotees. My colleague Sessa is joining us with more details on this.
Government has stepped in to address the soaring airfare to Prayagraj as Mahakumbh progresses. Airlines have been urged to rationalize their pricing because currently round-trip tickets from major cities such as Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, as well as the smaller ones like Jaipur and Bhopal are priced between a whopping 30,000 and 47,000. This is an increase from the usual fare of around 5,000 to 8,000 for a one-way ticket in this route. The Ministry of Civil Aviation and Aviation Regulator DGCA held meetings with airlines directing them to also increase capacity. The government has in fact allowed the operation of 81 additional flights with a total of 132 flights now servicing Prayagraj, providing a total of 80,000 monthly seats. All airlines are running special flights to the holy city. Akasa, for example, has announced plans to introduce flights from Ahmedabad and Bangalore, contributing an additional 4,000 seats in February. Meanwhile, a SpiceJet is set to add 43,000 extra seats and will commence services from Delhi, Bombay, Jaipur, Chennai as well as Hyderabad. This increase in flight capacity is expected to ease airfare ahead of the important Snan dates lined up in February.
Thanks for that, Sessa. Now, with just a few days left for the 2025 union budget, NDTV Profit brings you coverage of what the common taxpayer expects. In this edition, the NDTV Profit team met the Gen Z from NMIMS to find out what changes they're expecting from the Finance Ministry this time around.
India is the youngest country in the world, and we are going to be that for another couple of decades, Anushi.
Absolutely.
And it'll be very, very interesting to see what Gen Z sees from the budget, not just for this year, but over the next 20 years. This will be useful in terms of insights as to what they want.
Yeah, and we are currently in NMIMS campus with some of the brightest minds over here to provide us insights on, what is the Gen Z pulse looking like? What can we expect from this upcoming budget? So, very interesting, very excited about this segment. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's not waste time. Let's go straight through. Hi, so give me your name and give us your expectation from Budget 2025. It's going to be the first full budget of Modi 3.0. What is your expectation from this budget?
Hello, my name is Ansh Mittal, and I expect this budget to do something for the credit access to MSMEs. Like we see that we have MSMEs in this country which do not get credit access, like my family does a MSME business, and we have to wait for 2 to 3 years to get the access for credit and the loans. And we can also see the improvement in infrastructure for NBFCs. Like they can also get the approval from RBI for priority sector lending.
Very interesting. And for how long has your family been in the MSME business? And what business do you do?
Basically, my father has been in this business for more than 25 years, and now my brother has joined the business, which he has opened a food processing industry.
Okay, very
cool. We are
cool.
trying for that for the last 5 years.
Well, just ahead of the Delhi elections, Home Minister Amit Shah, during his roadshow in Kasturba Nagar, happened to exclusively talk to my colleague Akhilesh Sharma from NDTV. The minister made an interesting comment saying there is a limit to how long lies can persist, and in this case, some lies have perpetuated for as long as 10 years. Let's take a look at his cutting-edge remark.
तो गृह मंत्री अमित शाह का इस समय कस्तूरबा नगर विधानसभा क्षेत्र में रोड शो चल रहा है। भारी भीड़ सड़क के दोनों ओर आप देख सकते हैं। काफ़ी देर पहले ये रोड शो शुरू हुआ था और लगातार यहाँ पर दोनों तरफ से लोग उनका स्वागत कर रहे हैं, ऊपर से फूलों की बरसात कर रहे हैं। अमित शाह जी हमारे साथ हैं। आपको क्या लग रहा है, परिवर्तन इस बार होगा, क्या कारण है?
निश्चित रूप से परिवर्तन होने वाला है। झूठ का एक आयुष्य होता है। यहाँ कुछ लंबा ही झूठ जी लिया, 10 साल हो गए, जनता सच जान चुकी है और हम इस बार परिवर्तन करने जाते हैं।
वो कह रहे हैं कि जो काम उन्होंने किया है उसी काम को आप कॉपी कर रहे हैं।
कॉपी करने का सवाल ही नहीं है। इन्होंने जो वादे किए इसमें कुछ कॉमन जरूर हो सकते हैं, परंतु उन्होंने पूरे नहीं किए। मोदी जी पूरा करेंगे।
सर, एक भ्रष्टाचार का मुद्दा प्रमुखता से बीजेपी उठा रही है।
स्वाभाविक रूप से हजारों करोड़ रुपए का भ्रष्टाचार हुआ है, जबकि अन्ना का नाम लेकर भ्रष्टाचार के विरुद्ध लड़ाई लड़कर राजनीति में आए।
सर, एक दूसरी बात ये यमुना नदी को लेकर के कही जा रही है। कल इन्होंने कह दिया कि यमुना में हरियाणा से जहर मिलाया जा रहा है।
चलिए, मैं आज सार्वजनिक सभा में इसका जवाब दूंगा, मगर इनकी बात पर किसी को भरोसा नहीं।
Let's focus on an international story. US President Donald Trump has planned to introduce tariffs on pharmaceuticals to encourage domestic manufacturing. This move is expected to target major manufacturing hubs. Reacting to this, pharma stocks plunged and closed at 2.33% on the NSE. Considering today's low, the Nifty Pharma index has fallen over 7% in the last 3 days. Apart from pharma, Trump has also imposed tariffs on computer chips and steel. He has promised to slap 25% tariffs on Mexico and China. Well, viewers, that's all the time we had on this edition of Profit 360. But do stay tuned to NDTV Profit for more news and updates.